Hello friends, good evening. First of all, I would like to brief the purpose of this program. This video is related to PSIR as an optional subject for UPSC CSC, and this is latest and reliable content of reputed coaching, and as I am also UPSC CSC aspirant. And as a aspirant, we all know that the importance of PSIR as an optional subject in UPSC. So stay connected with me. I'll be delivering content on PSIR regularly. Stay motivated, be alert, and just keep learning with me. So let's start from the first lecture of PSIR. What is thought? How to understand political thought? Political thought can be understood as deep thinking about the political spheres of life. Let me take out a pen. What is political? How to identify and distinguish from other spheres of life? It means to say that the term political of politics comes from the Greek word polis, means city state. State denotes authority. It means state is about authority. The term politics comes from Greek word city state or state in general. It means political thought is about state. Thus political thought is about state. It is said that political science begins and ends with the states. This statement is given by Garner, a political thinker. This is Garner. Political science begins and ends with the state implies an attempt to determine the scope of the subject. Correct? As political science begins and ends with the state. It means to say that all things that are related to state can be considered as the scope of the subject. Though somewhere it has been said to determine the scope of the subject. Thus, political science deals with all that comes within purview of state. Western political thought. It is an intellectual tradition which has its root in ancient Greek, in the works of Plato and Aristotle. It evolved as a result of dialogue among the best minds like Bentham Mill, Karl Marx, and is still evolving. Western tradition is a secular, unlike Indian tradition, where the religious texts cannot be separable from each other completely. And there is no book in India which can be called as entirely secular or purely political. It means these statements are telling about the difference between the Western tradition and the Indian tradition of secularism. Western tradition is secular, unlike Indian tradition, which is not completely secular, as as it Indian secularism is not completely separable from its religious text, so it cannot be considered as purely political or entirely secular. Didactic. Indian tradition is didactic because it is based on preaching. We do not we do not encourage critical thinking. Take care. On the other hand, Western tradition is didactical. It involves through debate and encourages critical thinking. Critical thinking. This is the keyword. Western world itself engage more with problems of this world when we implies try to find answer to related to a spiritual world. It means we try to find the solutions of everything based on spirituality. Mainly, this is the thing that comes from this text. What a subject's issues comes within political thinking and thought. Whatever comes under the state will be a matter of our concern, and what comes under state will be a matter of debate. Correct. Though there is a consensus over that political thought deals with the state, However, there is a lack of consensus over what comes under the state. It means there are lack of agreements that what can be considered as under the purview of state. To begin with, we can give reference to Plato, who is regarded as the father of political philosophy, has not made any distinction between the spheres of a state and the spheres of family or personal spheres. It means Plato, Aristotle, who has been considered as ancient thinker, has not made any distinction between the personal, family, and personal spheres and family sphere, and family and public spheres. In Plato's scheme of things, no aspect of human life is beyond the purview of state. It means this statement in Plato's scheme of things, no aspect of human life, no aspect of human life is beyond the purview of state. It means to say that somewhere it is expressing the concept of essence of totalitarianism. All things comes under the purview of state, family, property. There are no any distinction between personal and family spheres. At times, of Plato has been criticized also for laying down the roots of totalitarianism of state. Right. Aristotle. Aristotle, who is known as the greatest disciple of Plato as well as its greatest critic, and tried to limit the totalitarian trends in the thoughts of Plato. Thus, Aristotle made the separation between personal and political life. He kept family out of the purview of state. Now, just look into this. Aristotle, who is known as the greatest disciple in Plato of Plato as well as his greatest critic, he tried to limit the totalitarian trends given by the Plato. Thus, Aristotle made the separation between personal and political life. It means Aristotle is the first ancient thinkers who has made distinction between personal and political life. This is the keyword. He kept family out of the purview of state. Aristotle, however, encouraged the patriarchal trends. Patriarchal trends. If Plato is radical, Aristotle is traditional. He confined women within the four walls of the family. It means he did not explain anything. He did not give any preference to the uh, to women and confined them within four walls of the family. If Plato provided women to come philosopher kings, Aristotle even denied the status of citizens to the women. Aristotle's influence continued on the successive philosophers, with few exceptions like J.S. Mill. J.S. Mill. We observe the negative consequences of making the artificial separation between personal and political. Like nowadays, we have a lack of cases, domestic violence, women exploitation, due to patriarchal trends in our society. We do not give importance to women, and in any kind of in any sector, that can be a commercial sector, a that can be a in the family, within family, in the domestic spheres, and so on. We do not give too much importance to women. Feminist scholar highlighted that not only political theory is highly masculinist, positive impact of such masculinist thinking is one of the important factor behind the subordination of women. Hence, they called for the personal is political by Carol Hans. It means he supported Carol Hans supported the idea of Plato because he has not made any distinction between personal and political spheres. The term is associated with the need to end the exploitation of women, but it can also be understood in context of determining the scope of state authority and consequently the subject matter of political science. Today, Today, political science as a discipline has vast scope. It it not only includes issues related to family but also environment. Its scope has become quite comprehensive and interdisciplinary. What is the importance of studying these philosophers? These philosophers had a special position in the history of Western political thought. Their significance lies in seeking and searching the answers to various problems of our contemporary political life. They have dealt with such issues with such depth, which is not found in all thinkers. Even they give answers to the problems of our times. The works of these philosophers are called classics. Classics. Now, what are classics? Classics are the authoritative text in any discipline. They are referred to find answers or guidance even to address the problems of our times. Their significance lived in they dealt external problem of our political life. They try to give solutions which are universal and transcendental values. It means transcendental values that can be universal, like a universal debt franchise. There is a demand to make it transcendental in all the country and so on, and cross boundary which are applicable in every nation, like human rights and so on. How to identify political thought, distinguish political thought from political philosophy theory. Philosophy, theory, science, and ideology. Political thought and its relevance. Political thought is seen as the foundation of the subject. It provides basic terminology, that is, understanding of the language, understanding the basic concepts, to look for the answer to the questions related to political life. Difference in thoughts and political theory. It is not easy to identify or to distinguish the two because they are quite overlapping. It means political thoughts and theory are quite overlapping. However, theory is more reliable as a guide to public policy. It means theory has been given supremacy over the thoughts. Why? It is more generalized. For example, in history of justice, we study the views of not just one philosopher. It means theory are more wide, more diverse than thought, and it is more reliable than thought. What is political philosophy? Not easy to identify. However, political philosophy can be seen as a type of political theory. What is the basis to distinguish the two, philosophical and scientific theory? They can be distinguished on the basis of issues. For example, science is about those issues which are factual in nature, data based, whereas philosophy is about norms, values, courage, honesty, justice, liberty, equality, and so on. Study of electoral behavior will come under the category of scientific theory, and discussion on issues like justice, liberty, equality will be normative and philosophical theories. They differ in terms of scientific theory. Scientific theory are based on observation. Scientific theory required verification. Of course, when we study science, we believe in theory. We believe in set of norms. We believe in observation. Without any proven fact, we do not believe in that, because science is based on observation, and that's why it is verifiable and reliable. Scientific theory use mathematical statistical method. Scientific theory are precise. It means to the point, factual. Philosophical theory are advanced and develops on the basis of logical arguments. It means philosophical theory is based on logical arguments, debate, discussions, and so on. Philosophical theories are not as precise as scientific theories. Absolutely, because its scope is very diverse than science. Philosophical theory may not be verifiable. Absolutely, as science is verifiable, though they may be logical. It means philosophical theory can be logical, can be based on reasoning, can be based on critical thinking, but it is not verifiable as science. Philosophical theories are not objective, they are normative in nature. Though scientific theory exists, yet in a very limited proposition, the discipline of subject denoted by philosophical theory. As a subject of political science emerged as the branch of philosophy, hence many scholars like Leo Strauss, Dante Germino do not regard the difference in political theory and political philosophy. It means there are certain scholars, there are certain thinkers who do not regard the difference in political theory and political philosophy because these two are quite overlapping. Only there is a difference of degree that for political philosophy is vast and not verifiable and not factual, whereas scientific theory is verifiable based on observation and so on. According to Leo Strauss, the nature of discipline is essentially philosophical. A difference in political philosophy and ideology. If we take with reference to Gramsci, the ideology is diluted form of philosophy. Ideology is needed for the mobilization of masses. Ideology contains the least amount of truth. Absolutely right. Ideology as uh, can be considered which is very useful for mobilization of masses, as like the modern emerging ideology that can be considered as Hindutva, because its importance is to influence people, to make citizens into masses, kill critical thinking, and so on, so that a particular dominance can be created, hegemony can be created on the basis of ideology. Absolutely right. Next, is it appropriate to use the term science for the discipline of political science? Do you think political science is a science? If yes, which type of science it is? When I look at the question paper with the title Political Science, I am more troubled with the title than the questions, said by Matland. The statement highlights the academic debate with respect to the states of the discipline as science. It also questions the appropriateness of using the term science. The problem arises when we associate the term science only with the natural science. In order to understand the appropriateness of using the term science for the study of politics, we have to trace the origin of the term. The term has been coined by Aristotle, who is known as the father of political science. Aristotle has categorized science knowledge into into three types: pure knowledge, applied science knowledge, arts, engineering, architecture. He puts political science in the category of applied science. Phronesis means applied science. In fact, Aristotle tried to question the approach of Plato. Plato wanted rulers to gain pure knowledge, ultimate truth. However, Aristotle believed that rulers require common sense or applied knowledge. In the words of Aristotle, a ruler is supposed to be worldly wise rather than being wise in the world of ideas. Example, Muhabbat bin Tughlaq. Similar concept has been given by Muhabbat bin Tughlaq. There was a time when certain political scholars like David Stone, Robert Dahl, and others tried to make political science as a pure science, means behavioralism. Pure science means theories which are verifiable, precise, objective, valuable. However, very soon these scholars will realize fatality of any such effort. It involves the danger of compromising the scope as well as the relevance. Scholars like Stern Lawrence prefer to call political science as applied science or policy science. Difference between applied science policy science. Applied science means no claims about absolute truth and objectivity. Political science gives inputs to the policy makers on the basis of their specialized knowledge and experience. It means applied science means no absolute truth. Objectivity cannot be considered as absolute truth. It means it does not leads the concept of totalitarianism. What are classics and what are the methods to study classics? Write short notes on contextualist approach. What are classics and its importance? The classics are those texts which are known for their depth with respect to the questions related to political life. Context of the debate in Western tradition, starting with Plato and Aristotle till the modern times, the work of Karl Marx and Elansky is known as classical tradition. Sorry. Okay, friends, uh, it is enough for today's class. I want it. To be short. So I'll continue with this concept in the next lecture, in the next video. Stay with me, keep watching, and keep learning. Thank you.